Nico Reed's going to take him about 4 yards deep. He's going to bring it out across the 10 along the seam. Bounces to the right side, 20, 25-yard line. Down the sideline he goes. 40, 45, got the kicker to beat. 50-yard line, still running. 35, 30, 25, 20, 15, 10, 5. Touchdown! Touchdown, Colorado! A 100-yard kickoff return by young Nico Reed. And just like that, with 14:45 to play in the third quarter, the Buffaloes pull within 14-12 here in Salt Lake City. What a first kickoff return by that Colorado Buffalo.
Well, that play right there put a little electricity into the Buffaloes here at Salt Lake City. A 100-yard kickoff return by Nico Reed. He opened up the second half. Buffs pull within 14-13, but he gets away from they fall 28-13. Season comes to an end at 4-8 overall, 3-6 in Pac-12 conference play. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Buffalo Stampede. Coach Coach Barnett, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. Utah's a very good football team. So Colorado went out, didn't perform well on offense, only 140-some yards of offense. But this team fought in this final game.
They did, and that kickoff return was sort of indicative of, I mean, he went in, he bounced off 2 or 3 players, came out the other side, and outruns everybody. Sort of the way we played the whole game, and we just hung around. They couldn't put us away. And you know, Utah didn't try to embarrass anybody or do anything. We made some plays when we needed to make them, especially on defense. And offensively, we just couldn't stay in the game. We just couldn't provide enough firepower to get in the game. I don't think we scored an offensive, well, we didn't score an offensive touchdown, and all the points came off special teams for the most part. But, we were shorthanded. I mean, we were very shorthanded. And everybody else on that team really fought and scratched and clawed. And it wasn't enough, and it wasn't going to be enough ever, but it never seemed that way. I mean, we didn't know if we were going to be able to do it, but we were never out of the game, and they knew that.
Buffalo's only had 143 yards of offense. They finish up with the worst offensive season in the history of Colorado football. Now the work begins, doesn't it? I mean, Carl Durrell and company have got a lot of work to do.
It does. The assessment takes place. I think, first of all, you got to decide. You got to talk to everybody, see what everybody thinks as far as where we need to go. I mean, you have a feel for it as the head coach, but you want to hear everybody's side of it. And then you got to make some decisions, and you got to decide on where you go and what you have to do, first of all, to improve. I think off-season conditioning and strength gain is really critical. There's times when we were just outmatched up front, especially in the offensive line.
As Gary mentioned, all the points came off special teams, a 33 and a 56-yard field goal by Cole Becker, then a 100-yard kickoff return. After the game, we heard from head coach Carl Durrell.
And we didn't play as well as we should have been able to play in a caliber game like this. I don't want to take anything away from Utah, and they're a really good team, and we felt we had some opportunities to do some positive things, but unfortunately we did not. We had a long field goal in the first half, and then a kickoff return and start the second half. Those are really, really positive things with some good young players that we feel have bright futures here. Offensively, we just struggled just getting in rhythm, trying to get in rhythm to do anything positive. We had a couple of nice drives that we struggled with protection. We struggled with creating any type of production in the run game. Defensively, we held up and did some really good things at times, but again, the run game was really big and prevalent with their success, with them being able to sustain some drives and put points, and so it was one of those games that with some players being down this week, we ended up not being as strong as we could have, but I felt very proud of how this team fought. This team fought for 60 minutes and gave us everything they had.
As head coach Carl Durrell, after the Buffaloes' 28-13 loss to Utah, Utah goes on, by the way, to win the Pac-12 South for the 4th time in 5 years. You talked about the process they're going to go through right now. How do I as a head coach? You're thinking about stuff as the season unfolds, obviously, about where your program is going, where you're at, the changes you want to make. How much time do you take after a season to kind of start implementing what you've been thinking about?
Well, I think you got to take some time and be careful with the time and not make any emotional, rash decisions. You want to make sure you thought it out. And Carl's personality is to do it that way anyway. Mm-hmm. And I think for someone like myself, I need to take that time. But and then you need to decide on the action, because it's ultimately your responsibility to, 1, decide which way you're going to go, and then 2, figure out how you're going to get there. So you do have an idea. You've watched it all year. I think the number one thing you've got to do at this point in time is try to hang on to your young players who might be tempted to leave, because in this environment anymore of college football, if things aren't going your way, you just up and go. And so you got to try to keep all the ones that you can, and then make some decisions personnel-wise, coaching-wise. I don't know about offense, defense, whether you make some changes there as far as the direction you want to go, not with who's running it necessarily, but if there's things that you feel like after a first full year in this conference you need to do to win.
You think about it right now with the transfer portal. It's been said now in this day and age of college football, you got to recruit your own team before you recruit the recruits. They got, by the way, recruiting day coming up for National Signing Day, December 15th. Lastly here, Kyle Whittingham has been here 17 years. You see what he's done. Stability, doing the same thing, building a culture, sticking with it. I know Buff Nation and everybody is frustrated out there, but we've had so much turnover in Colorado. You can kind of see with what they've done here, this is the way you have to build. There's got to be some patience involved.
This is the way you have to do it, and this is the way you should do it. And, they're getting players that are leaving other programs that want to come here now. Yeah. And we just saw them. We saw a bunch of them on the field tonight, and they beat us. And so you've got to create the same kind of culture, one that's going to be steady and consistent, and one that people want to be a part of.
So the Buffaloes season comes to an end with a 28-13 loss to Utah here in Salt Lake City. Buffaloes 4-8, 3-6 in Pac-12 conference play. Gary Barnett, voice of the Buffs, Mark Johnson. Coming up next here in the Buffalo Stampede, we're talking men's basketball.